Damn, Fervent. How many bangers you got?
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Took a bullet in the chest and woke up under arrest. You probably wish I'm dead, but I'm here to collect. Every breath a reminder, I will never forget. You tryna take my son, then it's off at your head. Yeah, I'm out for the kill, and I'm out for the bucks. The world knows the deal, that my fiancé sucks. Restraining order was silly, tryna paint me as a maniac. You would think I'm Chili's, the way I want my baby back. It's gangsta kill, spend some time in the cell. I've been acquitted, baby, time to unleash hell. Hey yo, it's gangsta kill, spend some time in the cell. I've been acquitted, baby, time to unleash hell. Yeah, just McCarthy sent my ass to jail. A motion to recuse made a Tucker tale. Thought you was slick when you revoked my bail. You just lit the fire, now welcome to hell. Now I got supporters from all across the globe. They know nothing over, I'm about to that not guilty verdict really set the tone. Next battle up, bring Caden home. It's gangsta kill, spend some time in the cell. I've been acquitted, baby, time to unleash hell. Hey yo, it's gangsta kill, spend some time in the cell. I've been acquitted, baby, time to unleash hell. Officer Noonan, you trippin' like Justin. Michelle Mitchell, you trippin' like Justin. Judge McCarthy, girl, you trippin' like Justin. North Andover PD, all y'all trippin' like Justin.
Kelsey Fitzsimmons is a North Andover police officer who was shot. Okay, she was shot, and she was shot. She was shot. After all, she was shot. In case I didn't make that clear yet.
What's up, everybody? That's my Peter Tragos. I'm recording this on a Tuesday evening during the Trial Channel's premiere and waiting to see if she gets mad at me for not being there on time. Today, we're going to finish up our series on third-party culprits. If you're new here, we have done videos on that 21-year-old juvenile, as well as that guy who has the game of a 50-year-old incel, which leaves us with Brian Albert. Now, I would hate to have this guy as a friend because not only will he butt dial you in the middle of the night, I could just picture a situation where you're like, oh, we're heading to the hillside, let's pick up Bri on the way, and you're just sitting outside his house, honking your horn, yelling out the window, and by golly, nothing will get this guy out of his house. Before we start, that Kelsey song that played in the intro has a lot of hype points behind it. We're nearing the top 100. Let's see how much we can get that up. That's what she said. Sorry, I'm 12. There's been a ton of documents dropped in the last week in all of the cases that we cover, whether it's Kelsey Fitzsimmons, Karen Reed. We had an arraignment in the Enrique Delgado Garcia case. We have Sandra Birchmore filings that are pretty massive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a special bonus video for you guys tomorrow. It will be available to everyone. And we're going to run down those motions, condense them in fervent fashion. But comment, but subscribe, stand up, moon your TV or your phone, wherever you're watching this, and butt scan the Venmo code in the top corner of the screen. I'll see you guys on the other side.
Mr. Albert, are you close friends with Brian Higgins?
I wouldn't describe it as close friends, no.
He's a fellow law enforcement officer, correct?
Yes,
Works for the ATF,
he does.
the the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, correct?
Yes.
How long have you known Mr. Higgins?
I think I first met Mr. Higgins about 15 years ago.
How did you meet him?
It was a professional, something at work. We may have worked together. I think at the time he was a Cambridge arson squad member, and I think he came into the city of Boston to do something for work.
How long have you known Brian Albert specifically?
I think I had some interaction with him when I was on the Cambridge Fire Department in my capacity in fire investigations. And then I would say pretty much through my entire career at ATF, you know, I came into contact with Brian.
Give me a number of years.
Well, I've been with ATF now for 15 years. I've probably known him at least that whole time.
You'd say that you have both a social and professional working relationship with him?
I would say yes, he's a friend.
Frequently drink together?
We have drank together. I wouldn't say frequently, but yes, we've drank together.
Break bread together? Have meals together?
Absolutely, had lunch.
As a matter of fact, you were asked at a prior hearing whether or not you could put a number on the number of times that you've had drinks with Brian Albert, and you said somewhere around 50 or something like that? Or under, actually you said under 50?
Under 50, I think I might have said 30.
And that was in 2 years, correct?
Yes.
So not under 50 in the entirety of your relationship, a 15-year relationship with Brian Albert, literally in the prior 2 years when you gave your testimony in June of 2023. In those 2 years, you met up with him and had drinks under 50 times.
Was that a question?
Yes.
Well, could you rephrase it?
Sure. Is it true that you testified, answer, quote, I mean, in 2 years, I mean, maybe under 50, end quote. That was your testimony to how often you socialized with Brian Albert, correct?
So we socialized more when I started working with his unit.
Okay, so my question is, well,
I don't know the exact number, but yes, we socialized, absolutely.
that's all I was getting at.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, there's no secrets here, right? He's my friend.
Mr. Higgins, let me ask the questions. I get it.
That's fine.
I get it. So you've known him for 15 years, and you were with him on January 28th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
And he's the person that you were, quote, joking and fooling around with, right?
Yes.
You had a long road trip with Mr. Higgins on January 28th, 2022, didn't you?
What's the question?
You had a long road trip with Mr. Higgins on January 28th, 2022, correct?
We drove from New York to Boston, yes.
It's a pretty good drive, you'd say?
Yes.
Consider that a road trip?
Yes.
How long?
I don't know if it was probably somewhere around 4 hours, maybe.
Once you got back from New York to back up to Boston, the
Yes.
Boston area, the two of you stopped at a location, correct?
Yes.
What was the location?
The hillside.
And what did you two do at the hillside?
We went into the hillside, had a drink, talked, and I think Brian may have ordered food.
So once you got back from that relatively long road trip, that 4 hour long road trip, I apologize, you stopped at a bar and started drinking, correct?
Yes.
Do you have anything to eat at the hillside?
I did not.
But Brian did. Brian Higgins did.
I left prior to Brian Higgins eating.
You've previously testified that on January 28th, you had gone to New York for this memorial service, correct?
Funeral service, yes.
The funeral service, not the memorial, you separate the two?
So, well, the wake would be the night before, funeral, I call them the services. It wasn't a memorial. Memorial to me would be more of like an annual thing. This was the services.
Understood.
Just want to be clear.
So you went with Brian Albert, Kevin Albert, and Eddie Hernandez, is that right?
I traveled down there myself, but I met up with them.
To go to the services?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that you and Brian Albert and Kevin Albert sort of run in the same social and professional circles?
I mean, without speaking for anybody else, I think we know a lot of the same people.
Go to some of the same holiday parties, for instance?
Yes.
Go to some of the same events, whether they're law enforcement events or otherwise?
Retirement parties, yes, things like that.
Might meet up at a bar and have a social drink together?
Yes.
Might share a meal together, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree that you particularly are pretty well connected to the Canton law enforcement community?
Could you explain that?
You know quite a few cops, right?
Well, it's a small department, so I do know everybody in the building in some capacity.
Okay, so my question is, you know quite a few cops in Canton.
I do.
You're pretty good friends with, as a matter of fact, maybe best friends with the chief of police, former chief of police, Kenny Berkowitz, correct?
Yes.
You know Brian Albert, he's a Boston police officer.
Yes.
You know his brother and work with his brother at Canton PD, correct?
Yes.
So it's fair to say, back to my original question, you're relatively well connected in the law enforcement community, the fabric of that community in Canton. Is that right?
Well, I think that comes with working with people, yes.
Is that yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. As a matter of fact, you've even given a personal toast at one of these events, these retirement events, et cetera, correct?
Chief Berkowitz, yes.
And during the course of that toast, you even said, if you want to hide a body, Kenny Berkowitz is your man, correct?
Objection.
Did
That
you
was a
say
joke.
that? Did you say that?
I don't recall that.
You don't remember telling that joke in front of a room full of folks?
I don't.
If you want to hide a body, Kenny Berkowitz is your man?
I don't.
You will agree that some of your closest friends are some of the more powerful people in Canton in terms of politics and law enforcement, right?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
At that same retirement dinner, there were members of the DA's office there, correct?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, the DA, Michael Morrissey, was there.
I believe he was at one point.
All right. And that was the same event that you gave either a keynote speech or some sort of a speech for Chief Berkowitz's retirement. Is that right?
Yes.
During the course of that road trip, or at the hillside, did the two of you discuss Karen Reed, my client?
No,
Did her name ever come up?
no,
Without telling me anything that he may have actually said, did he mention Karen Reed or the topic of Karen Reed?
no, never.
Did he mention the fact that he had been texting and flirting with Karen Reed 2 weeks prior?
No,
So that subject, according to you, was never addressed or broached by Mr. Higgins or you
no,
during that entire day.
no,
Did you discuss your flirtatious relationship with Karen Reed with Brian Albert at any point?
No.
Never.
No.
So you were on a 4-hour drive in a snowstorm back from New York with Mr. Reed, with Mr. Albert, and your interest in Karen Reed never came up,
No.
even though he's a good friend.
Yes, just something I wouldn't talk about.
On January 28th, you drove your Jeep Wrangler to the Hillside Bar to meet up with Brian Albert for drinks, correct?
I did.
You said you drank 3 to 4 whiskey sodas at the Hillside, is that right?
It'd be Jameson and ginger, not whiskey soda.
My mistake. Jameson and ginger. Jameson is Irish whiskey,
It is.
and ginger is ginger ale?
Yes.
Okay. What was Brian Albert drinking?
If I was to guess, a beer.
I don't want you to guess. Do you know what he was drinking?
No, I don't.
He was drinking
He was
something?
drinking something.
Okay, alcoholic.
Yes.
You two were probably going round for round. In other words, finish a drink, get another round for the two of you, finish it, get another round.
I don't think we... No, I wouldn't say we were going round for round.
So he was nursing one beer while you had 4 Jamesons?
Well, it would have taken... Say that again?
He was nursing one beer while you had 4 Jamesons? What you said?
No, he was probably... Maybe he had more beers than I had Jamesons is more what I would say.
Okay, so maybe he had 5 or 6 beers while you had 4 Jamesons.
I'm not going to put a number on it because I don't know.
But it was more.
More than what?
More than you.
Maybe. He wasn't there that long.
Well, it doesn't take that long to drink a beer, does it? I mean, if you're sort of thirsty and in a hurry.
Is that a question?
Everything I say up here is a question.
Okay.
Just presume
Well,
that.
all right. So
Well, that wasn't, so. Let's, questions. Yes, Mr. Higgins, that was a question.
All right, let me put a question mark at the end of that.
okay.
Your memory that Brian Albert had more drinks than you did when you had those 3 to 4 Jameson and Gingers.
To be honest with you, I wasn't keeping track.
He left Hillside and you stayed, correct?
For a short time, yes.
You later changed your mind and ultimately decided to go to the waterfall. You finished whatever you're eating or drinking and decided to go over to the waterfall, right?
Yes, because I'm always saying I'm going to show up, and then I kind of do the Irish exit. So I decided it was a long day, it was an emotional day, and I decided to join them.
Did you drive your vehicle over there
Yes, I did.
after having as many as 4 whiskeys?
Yes.
Brian Albert, did he drive himself?
Well, I didn't see him. I dropped him off in Boston PVD district down there in Charlestown, and I'm assuming he drove back towards that way to meet me.
He wasn't with anybody else.
Not that I know of.
So he was drinking at the Hillside Bar and then got in his car and drove over to the waterfall as well.
I didn't see him drive over, but I assume that's what he did, yes.
You'd been drinking since about what time? What time? That's a bad way to ask it. What time did you start drinking?
When are we at, Mr.?
I'm sorry, on the 28th, when you got back from New York. When did you start drinking?
Well, it wasn't until I swapped out vehicles and I went up to the hillside.
Okay. That would have been, give me a time frame. 9-ish, 8-ish?
It was dark. It was maybe in the area of 8 o'clock.
And what time do you think you got to Waterfall?
I couldn't say. I don't. It was after the hillside.
Before Brian Albert left Hillside, did he tell you that John O'Keefe had been invited over to meet them at the waterfall?
No.
Was there any particular reason why you changed your mind and left the Hillside to go to the waterfall?
Well, I think, as I previously testified, that it was because I didn't always take them up on their offer, and I usually did the Irish exit, and I decided because of the weather and everything else, and it had been a long day, that I would go down there and join them.
Didn't have anything to do with you knowing that Karen Reed might be at the waterfall.
It couldn't have, because I didn't know she or John O'Keefe would even be there. I didn't know who was going to be there other than Brian's wife.
Do you have any text messages with Brian about going to the waterfall?
I don't recall. He told me about it at the hillside.
And once he got to the waterfall obviously before you did.
He did, I think shortly before, yes.
Any text communications between you and Brian Albert about who was at the waterfall or who was expected to come to the waterfall?
No, not that I recall.
After you arrived at the waterfall, John O'Keefe arrived subsequent there too, right?
Yes.
How long after?
Approximately 45 minutes, maybe?
And Karen Reed was with him, is that right?
Yes.
Brian Higgins was standing right next to you when she came in along with John O'Keefe, correct?
I'm not sure where people were standing when they arrived.
Well, you remember you saw video, correct?
I don't believe there's any, I saw video of them walking into Waterfall now.
Fair enough, but you saw at least a clip, according to you. You saw a clip of that video of you at the waterfall, correct?
Yes.
You were situated at a high-top table, right?
Yes.
Your back is sort of to the camera, is that right?
I'm not sure of the camera angles. The video that I saw, I was at the high top table, but I'm not sure of all the camera angles of the waterfall.
Brian Higgins is the guy with the sweatshirt with maybe a Harley Davidson emblem on the back or something?
I'm not sure what he wore that night. I'm sure he had a sweatshirt on, but I don't know what the emblem was.
Okay. He was standing right next to you in the video clip that you saw.
Yes.
Okay. In other words, that was the video where he was standing right next to you, and you two turn to each other and start this play fighting thing.
Yes.
So if it's that time or sometime around there at the high top, you were in proximity of Brian Higgins when Karen Reed and John O'Keefe came into the bar, correct?
I just don't recall the timing of when they came into the bar.
All right. Mr. Albert, did Mr. Higgins say anything to you at that time about John O'Keefe arriving with Karen Reed at his side?
No.
Did Mr. Higgins say anything to you about being upset that Karen Reed had shown up with John O'Keefe?
No.
Describe your relationship with John O'Keefe, if you would.
So I didn't know John that well. I had only met him a few times. But every time I met him, it was cordial, pleasant. And I would consider him to be a co-worker, even though I never really worked with him directly. He seemed like a nice guy. I knew his whole story about the fact that he had taken his niece and nephew after a tragedy in the family. And I had an unbelievable amount of respect for him doing that. but I can't say that we were good friends because I didn't really know him all that well.
You were far better friends with Brian Higgins than you were with John O'Keefe. That's fair to say.
Yes,
On Friday, you were asked whether or not you knew my client, Karen Reed, correct? This meeting a couple days ago, during your direct examination.
I believe so, yes.
You were also asked the same series of questions at another grand jury not involving the Commonwealth. You remember that in June of 2023?
Yes,
I want to be clear about this other hearing. That was a non-Commonwealth hearing in front of a grand jury, correct?
yes,
All right. Mr. Lally and his colleagues were not there, is that right?
yes,
I was not there, Mr. Yannetti was not there,
yes,
or Miss Little.
right.
Okay. At that June 2023 non-Commonwealth hearing, you were asked some questions about whether or not you knew Karen Reed before January 28th, 2022.
I believe,
That night in question.
I believe so, yes.
And you testified, before you testified, you were sworn an oath.
Yes,
Same oath that you swore in this trial, correct?
yes,
Swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes,
And you knew that you were testifying under penalty of perjury in that hearing as well, correct?
yes,
And you testified at that non-Commonwealth grand jury that you, quote, believe Karen was with John the night he came into Hillside. A female that looked similar to Karen from the waterfall came in with him on that night, and I assume that was her, but I can't say for sure, end quote. That was your testimony before that grand jury.
yes,
But you were also asked a similar question in April of 2022 by Mr. Lally at his grand jury. You remember that?
no,
Let's start at the beginning. Before you testified in the April 2022 grand jury, more than a year earlier, and just 3 months after this incident, you were sworn an oath, correct?
yes,
The same oath that you took in June of 2023, right?
yes,
And the same oath you took on Friday.
yes,
Isn't it true that you were asked the question whether or not you knew Karen Reed on January 28th, 2022, and you testified, quote, I've never met or seen her before, end quote.
no, I don't recall that.
Didn't you indicate that you just testified, that you reviewed your grand jury testimony in anticipation for this trial?
Yes,
You'd read the whole thing,
yes,
and you don't recall making that statement.
no,
May I approach you on it?
Yes, and I'll see counsel at sidebar when you leave that with the witness.
Does that refresh your recollection as to what you said before the grand jury in April of 2022?
yes, but you didn't read the whole, quote though.
Right. The whole quote is the following. Question. So the female you had never met before, is that fair to say? Answer. No. I've never met her or seen her before. Period. Maybe once, but I don't think I've ever had a conversation with her. That was the entire quote, correct?
That's the entire quote, yes. That's not what you read earlier, but yes.
Well, what I read earlier was, I've never met or seen her before. Those words came out of your mouth, correct?
That's not my whole sentence, no.
You said, I've never met or seen her before, and then you said, maybe once, but I've never had a conversation with her, I don't think.
Right, that's my sentence.
Okay, so which is it, Mr. Albert? What were you saying? Were you saying you met her and had a conversation with her? Or were you saying, I've never met or seen her before? Which one of those two things was true?
I was saying that I met her maybe once.
Actually, what you said was, I've never met her or seen her before. Your words, not my words, sir. Isn't that right?
No, because in the next sentence I say, I met her maybe once.
So you literally changed your testimony within your own testimony.
Objection.
I'm not sure what I was thinking at the time that I said that.
Isn't it true, Mr. Albert, not only had you met Miss Reed, but you had spent several hours with Karen Reed and John O'Keefe 6 days before this incident. Isn't that true?
No.
In fact, on January 22nd, 2022, 6 days before January 28th, you socialized with Karen Reed at the Hillside Bar for several hours, didn't you?
I was at the Hillside Bar the week prior, yes.
It was a Saturday night, correct?
Yes.
You were at the bar.
Yes.
There were several other folks at the bar, correct?
Several people, yes.
That included Chris Albert, your brother,
Yes.
a guy named Tim Daly.
Yes.
Julie Albert was there.
Yes.
Jen McCabe was there.
Yes.
Matt McCabe was there.
Yes.
John O'Keefe was there.
Yes, he was.
And Karen Reed was there. Correct?
Yes, she was.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Describe who the people are going from left to right, sir.
Chris Albert, myself, John O'Keefe, and Tim Daly.
And this was on January 22nd, 2022, at about 11 p.m., correct?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Albert, who took the photo?
I don't know.
Karen Reed took the photo, didn't she?
I have no idea who took that photo.
Karen Reed took the photo. You're literally staring right at her, correct?
I don't know who took the photo.
Well, who else do you think it could have been?
Well, there were a lot of people there. You mentioned my sister, 2 sister-in-laws, a brother-in-law. I'm not sure.
Did you ever see this photo from Jen McCabe?
No.
Did you ever see it from Julie Albert?
No.
Chris Albert didn't take it. He's in it.
Right.
Tim didn't take it. He's in it.
Right.
You obviously didn't take it.
Right.
And who's the guy on the far right?
Tim.
That was Tim. Who's the guy next to Tim?
John.
So given the fact that you were never shown that photo, you've never seen that photo before today, correct?
I saw a photo that was sent to me in Discovery or to my attorney that showed only, I believe, me and John in the picture.
Okay.
I think it's the same photo, only that's blown up to show everybody.
Got it. So given what you now know about that night, and who was there, the fact that John is posing for a photo right next to you, who do you think took the photo, sir?
I have no idea who took the photo.
Could it have been Karen Reed?
Objection.
Sustained. Let's move along from
In
that,
fact,
please.
You were interacting with Karen Reed and John O'Keefe throughout that evening, correct?
I remember having conversations with John that evening. I don't necessarily remember speaking to Karen that evening.
So you were socializing not exclusively with her,
Right.
but certainly socializing with her 6 days before John O'Keefe ended up dead on your lawn, correct?
We were there at the same time, yes.
And yet, when you were asked 3 months later, do you know Karen Reed, or how do you know Karen Reed? The actual question was, so the female you've never met before. Is that fair to say? That was Mr. Lowey's question. And your immediate response was, no, I've never met her or seen her before. Correct? That's what you said.
That's not my whole response, no.
That's what you said immediately upon that question, sir.
That's the beginning of my response, yes.
That was the first sentence out of your mouth.
Yes.
You said, quote, I honestly didn't really have one. I didn't have any conversation with her. I just kind of saw her from across the table. I didn't really think of it either way. Correct?
I don't know what that question is referring to. Is that for the waterfall or is that for Hillside?
Hillside.
Okay, yes.
All right. So in June of 23, a little over a year later, your testimony significantly changed from no, I've never met or seen her before, to I really didn't have a conversation with her. I saw her across the table. I didn't really think of it either way. Correct?
No, I think those are very similar testimonies.
When you were asked in the other proceeding, and this is about the waterfall, question, did you talk to Karen Reed at the waterfall that night? You answered unequivocally, I did not. Is that right?
Yes.
Pause it. Do you recognize the individuals in this clip?
Yes.
Do you recognize that person?
Yes, I believe that's me.
Do you recognize that person?
I do. I believe that's the defendant.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
what does it appear you are doing as it relates to Ms. Reed in this clip?
It appears that I'm talking at the table. I don't know if it's specifically to her, but
Go ahead and play it. Stop. Did you see the part of the clip starting at 11:53 and 15 seconds, going back about 30 seconds?
yes.
Okay. Who did it appear you were talking directly to, and who did it appear was answering directly to you?
I looked like I was speaking, but I can't say for sure that I was directly talking to the defendant.
Even though it looked like you were looking right at her and leaning toward her and she was answering you.
I was definitely looking that way. I don't remember the conversation.
The reality is, we can take that down. The reality is, Mr. Albert, you had many conversations with her throughout the night, like you would with anybody else you were socializing with, correct?
No.
It's not like you ignored her through that evening.
No, I think that just the positioning of me on the other side of the table, I didn't have really much contact.
There was only one person between you, and that was Mr. Higgins.
No, I don't think that was the setup for the whole night.
I didn't say the whole night.
Right.
I'm talking about right then.
Right,
That's an example.
right, what's your question? Rephrase your question, please.
Did you or did you not have conversations with Karen Reed that night?
I do not recall having conversations with Karen Reed that night at all, no.
And that's what you told the grand jury under oath, notwithstanding this video evidence to the contrary.
Yes, I don't think that video shows that.
I'm going to let that stand. Next question, please.
You thought that it was important to try to deny knowing John O'Keefe and Karen Reed during those interviews and or that testimony.
Objection.
Sustained.
Mr. Albert, you knew that if you admitted having a relationship with John O'Keefe and Karen Reed, you'd have a lot to answer for when Karen Reed's boyfriend ended up dead on your lawn 6 days later, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask the question differently.
You knew that there would be questions about your relationship with Karen Reed if it were known that you knew her before her boyfriend ended up dead on your lawn 6 days later, correct? There would be questions.
Objection.
You can ask it a different way. That's sustained.
So you lied under oath when you said, I've never met or seen her before, correct?
No, because that wasn't my whole statement.
The sentence, I've never met or seen her before, it's pretty unequivocal, isn't it?
That was not the context of my whole sentence.
But those are the words that came out of your mouth, right?
Initially, and then I remembered that I had met her once.
Let me just ask it this way.
Sure.
Is that sentence true or false? That you had never met or seen her before? True or false?
That portion of that sentence is false.
You have been shown, I use the word featured, you've been shown on television in a boxing ring,
Yes.
sparring.
I haven't seen the video in a while. I'm not sure if I was sparring.
If we can, Your Honor, with the court's permission, can we take a look at Exhibit 53? So pause. Do you see the two men in the foreground?
Yes.
Who are those two men?
Looks like myself and Brian Higgins.
Does it look like yourself and Brian Higgins, or is that yourself and Brian Higgins?
Yes, it is.
Okay. We can go ahead and play that. Sorry. Just fooling around.
Yeah, just having fun with my friends and hanging out and fooling around.
Absolutely. What were you doing? Describe what you were doing.
Having fun with my friends, hanging out, just being silly.
Okay. Describe physically what you were doing in the video.
I was playing around, sort of getting in a boxing stance.
Okay. Otherwise known as a fighting stance, correct?
Yeah, for a second, yes.
Okay. And what did Brian Higgins do when you got into a fighting stance?
It looked like he was kind of doing the same thing.
Got into a fighting stance as well, correct?
Yeah.
What were you two talking about? You can tell you're talking, right?
Yeah, I don't know what we were talking about. We were just being silly, fooling around, having fun.
Were you giving him advice on the proper way to get into a fighting stance or a boxing stance?
No.
You giving him some advice or some indicators about how to best position himself if someone is taking an aggressive stance against him?
No. No.
Is he telling you what he thought was a good technique for fighting or boxing?
I don't think it was that serious. We were just playing, fooling around.
Pause. Did you see what you just did?
Yes.
What did you do when you slapped his right arm?
What did I do?
What did you do? What are you doing?
It looks like I'm just being silly, fooling around.
Okay. I'm going to ask you for a little bit more physical description. What are you doing? Why are you grabbing him from behind?
I don't really know.
Is that a wrestling hold?
No, I don't think so.
Control hold?
No, I don't think so.
Is that some sort of a control hold that you've used in the past?
Bear hugging somebody? No.
Okay.
That's just a silly fooling around with my buddy.
Let's go ahead and play this. Stop it. Do you see what Mr. Higgins just did?
I did, yeah.
When you let him go, what did he do?
I don't know. He did some kind of, I don't know, he pretended to knee me or something.
Knee to the abdomen?
Yeah, I don't know if it made contact or not, but
Mr. Albert, I'm not suggesting by my questions that you two are actually in a fight.
right.
I'm asking what he's doing. Does it seem to
Yeah, I don't,
you that he's playing like or practicing like techniques in fighting?
I don't know what his intent was. It looks like he's just fooling around, just like I was.
But if a grown man walks up to you, grabs you from behind, and puts a knee up to your solar plexus, that's probably not the same as a high five, right?
What is your question?
In other words, it looks like he's practicing some sort of fighting technique.
Practicing? That's not how I see that.
How would you describe it?
I would just describe it as him fooling around. We're in the bar together. We're good friends. And we're just being silly and fooling. That's all.
There's a number of people in that bar. You would agree with that?
Yes.
You see anybody else in that video at any time getting physical with one another?
Objection.
Sustained.
You can take that down. Did you see the rest of that video?
Yes.
No question that you two are being friendly with one another, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with that?
Yes.
But there's also no question that of all the people in that bar, the only two people that appear to be imitating fighting are you and Mr. Higgins, correct?
In that video, yes.
And, is there another video?
Well, no, I just don't know what everybody else was doing in the bar.
Do you remember anybody else? You know, Julie Albert or
I don't remember.
Nicole getting into a scrap with someone?
No.
No, it's just you two, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Albert, this is minutes before everybody headed to your house at 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
Including John O'Keefe.
Yes.
You also know Brian Albert well enough to know what his relationship with, for instance, the other guy that you traveled back from New York with, Eddie Hernandez.
I do know Eddie Hernandez. I actually know Eddie the longest out of everybody.
So you knew Eddie, or Officer Hernandez,
Objection,
before you
Your
ever
Honor.
knew.
Ask the question.
You knew Officer Hernandez before you ever knew Brian Albert.
Yes.
You knew him before you even knew Kevin Albert.
Yes.
And you're aware that there was a physical altercation
Objection,
between
Your
Brian
Honor.
Albert and Eddie Hernandez that you're aware of, correct?
The objection sustained.
Are you aware that Brian Albert had gotten into a fist fight with Eddie Hernandez?
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you at a Christmas party when that happened?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained is to that form. You can be specific, though.
Have you ever been at an event with Brian Albert and Eddie Hernandez and seen them fight?
Objection.
Christmas 5 years or so before 2022.
Okay, the objection sustained.
You do know that Brian Albert has a reputation for being a fighter.
Objection.
Sustained.
You were asked in a formal interview, do you recall, I want to make sure I'm clear about some of your prior statements. You had a formal interview with some folks prior to your testimony at a prior proceeding. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I'm tracking.
Okay. At the formal interview, which is what I'm going to call that,
Okay.
the formal interview, you were asked about Brian Albert and his reputation, were you not? Yes or no?
Yes.
You indicated in that formal interview that even Chief Berkowitz was
Objection.
quote, a little afraid of Brian Albert.
All right, so that is the objection sustained. That's stricken. I'll see you at sidebar.
The investigators in this case had evidence that pointed to Brian Albert. Brian Albert is a violent man. He was not only a boxer who punched people in the ring, he was also a violent drunk who sucker punched other police officers. Those police officers are on our witness list. He's been investigated by the I will agree that at some point, Brian Higgins and your father, Brian Albert, left that area to go to another room, correct?
Yes.
So it's fair to say there was at least some portion of the night when Brian Higgins and your father were out of your field of vision, correct?
I don't agree with that because the room that I had seen them go into has an open doorway and you can see right into the family room that they were in. So I could actually see them in there.
Gotcha. How long were you there when Brian Higgins and your father, Brian Albert, were there?
Inside the family room?
I'm talking from that whole night. When you were at 34 Fairview, how much time lapsed between the time you first saw Brian Higgins and Brian Higgins left the residence?
I can't say for sure. If I had to estimate, I'd say an hour and a half.
Okay. And so your testimony before this jury is for that full hour and a half, there was no time when Brian Higgins and your father, Brian Albert, were out of your field of vision.
Not that I can remember.
Brian Higgins directly followed you into the house after you walked in, correct?
Could you rephrase that?
Sure. You walked in, even though there was some moving of cars, you were the first one to walk into the house. And Brian Higgins followed you.
Yes.
Nicole and Caitlin then came in shortly after that.
I think Nicole and Caitlin probably came in around the same time as me. And then Brian Higgins.
Sorry. Did you make another drink once you walked into the house?
Did I make a drink?
Did you make a drink? Grab a beer?
Yes.
Okay. When I say make a drink, did you get a drink?
Yes.
What drink did you get?
I don't know. Probably just would have been whatever was at the house, a beer or something.
Okay. Did Higgins have another drink?
I don't know.
Did you have anything to drink while you were at 34 Fairview?
Well, when I got there, they didn't have any whiskey. I believe they might have put a beer or something else in front of me. And, you know, I knew it was going to be a short night there because I just wasn't going to, I'm not a beer drinker.
What did you do? What did you and Brian Higgins do once you were inside the house?
We just kind of hung out, talked.
At any point, did you and Brian Higgins go down to the basement?
No, I don't remember going to the basement.
You don't remember going to the basement, or you didn't go to the basement?
No, I didn't go to the basement.
Did Brian Higgins go to the basement?
Not that I know of.
And you didn't go upstairs to the second floor, did you?
I think I did go upstairs, yes.
Isn't it true that Brian Higgins has never been upstairs in your house?
Prior to that night?
Ever? including that night specifically?
I don't think that's true, no.
You've indicated in a prior testimony that you've never been upstairs in Brian's house, correct?
When you say upstairs, like, were you talking like second floor?
Correct.
Yes, no.
Okay. You testified to that in a prior hearing, is that right?
Yes,
In May of 2023.
yes.
And to your knowledge, had Mr. Higgins been over to your house at any point prior?
He may have been at our house for a graduation party, but I wasn't sure if he had ever been inside because the party was outside. It was a cookout, so I don't know if he'd been in that part of my house.
And you said specifically, quote, "I've never been upstairs." Is that
Yes.
right? All right. You understood when you gave that statement that you were under oath.
Yes,
You were telling the truth.
yes,
Same oath that you took here today, correct?
yes.
You indicated that the photos that you saw were on the first floor living room area. Is that right?
I believe that's where they were, yes.
So the only floor downstairs from the first floor would be what?
The basement,
And the only floor upstairs from the basement would be what?
the first floor.
So if someone were to describe going upstairs to look at the photos that you've described on the first floor, where would they have to be to go upstairs to look at those photos?
At any point in time where you were not with the group in the kitchen dining area?
No, I was there basically for the whole night, except I think at one point I may have shown Brian Higgins some photos that were in my son's room that were upstairs.
And what kind of photos are we talking?
So my son Jack, who's one of the twins, was in the Marines or is in the Marines, and we had put some plaques and some stuff in his room upstairs. And Brian Higgins was prior military, as am I, and I thought he would want to see the photos, so I had him look at them.
And for that period of time that you were outside of sort of the kitchen dining room area looking at the photos with Mr. Higgins, about how long a period of time are we talking?
Very, very quickly, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes.
Are you saying on the first floor?
Correct. If the photos are on the first floor,
Yeah.
and someone said, we went upstairs to look at those photos, where would they have to be?
I guess upstairs.
The people would have to be upstairs?
Well, the photos would be upstairs, is that what you're saying?
Where are the people? Where would the people have to be to go upstairs to the living room to look at the photos?
I'm not understanding the question.
If the photos are on the first floor, Mr. Higgins,
Yes,
the only floor beneath it is the basement,
okay.
and someone says, we went upstairs to look at the photos, where would they have to be?
Well, who said they went upstairs?
All right, so Mr. Jackson, you can save this for argument. Next question, please.
If Brian Albert said you went upstairs to look at the photos, where would you have to be?
Objection.
Sustained.
On the early morning of January 29th, 2022, did John O'Keefe ever come into your house that night?
John never came into my house that night. He would have been welcomed, and the defendant would have been welcomed with open arms had they come in, and I wish they had. I really do.
There was no body, was there?
I never saw a body.
Thank you.
I wish I had.
Sounds like that's a little rehearsed.
Not at all. It's not at all.
I'll let the answer stand.
You owned a dog at the time, correct?
Yes,
The German Shepherd named Chloe.
yes, mix.
She's a large German Shepherd.
Yep, about 70 pounds.
Describe that dog as being not great with strangers, isn't that true?
I did describe it that way, yes.
She's not great with strangers.
I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that it's kind of a poorly worded question. Would you say that she's good with strangers?
I'd say she's fine with strangers.
Fine with strangers. Okay.
Yep.
She's definitely not good with other animals, is she?
No, she did not like other dogs.
Chloe actually has a well-documented bite history, doesn't she?
Objection.
Does she?
With dogs. A couple dogs, yes.
Ms. Albert, she also has a bite history with humans, doesn't she?
Objection.
Ask that differently.
Ms. Albert, Chloe has injured other humans, hasn't she?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
In one incident in May of 22, when she got out and was fighting with another dog, the woman whose dog it was tried to break up the two dogs, and while she was trying to break up the two dogs, she got injured.
There were actually 2 individuals who were injured in that incident, correct?
Well, there was 2 women, but I believe just one woman, from what I understand, had an injury from Chloe. The other one may have fallen or something, but I'm not sure 100%.
There were 2 women who were actually taken to the hospital after that incident, correct?
Yes, a neighbor had called the police, or called an ambulance just to make sure they were okay.
You testified that, quote, it started barking because it realized that people were downstairs, end quote, right?
Yes.
Chloe had a penchant for barking when she heard people, correct?
No, not necessarily.
She did that night.
Yeah, I think she wanted to use the bathroom.
Well, that's not what you said in your testimony. You said it started barking because it realized there were people downstairs, right?
Right.
So your German Shepherd, probably a decent guard dog, if she heard commotion and people, she would bark.
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
Obviously, if Chloe hears commotion and people, she's apt to bark. That's the only question.
No.
So just that night, out of nowhere, first time ever, Chloe starts barking when people walk into the house.
No, it's not the first time ever, but she didn't bark often.
Okay. But she did bark that night, right?
Yes.
And the reason that you gave under oath for why she started barking was because there were people downstairs milling about, right?
Yes.
So in that instance, on January 29th, in the early morning hours, she was barking because she heard people.
Well, I can't say why she was barking.
Well, you did say why she was barking.
I let her out to use the bathroom, so I think that's probably why.
Except your testimony was it started barking because it realized there were people downstairs. Those are your words, Mr. Albert, not
Right.
mine.
Okay.
Do you stand by those?
Yes.
Okay. You ultimately did let Chloe out to go to the bathroom, correct?
Yes.
And you mentioned that Chloe had actually escaped from the backyard in that incident.
Yes.
And that happens from time to time at your house, correct?
It had happened a few times, yes.
And Mr. Albert let Chloe out when he arrived that night, correct?
Yep.
And then you allowed her to stay downstairs and you monitored her with the others who were in the house. Isn't that right?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you testified in that state grand jury, the same April grand jury, April of 2022. So I let it go out to the bathroom. I let it back in. I kind of monitored it a little because we usually don't have people over the house and the dog's not great with strangers, period. So I was just making sure that the dog was all right with the people that were over, end quote, correct?
Yes.
So in fact, you did keep Chloe downstairs at least for a period of time with people that were over, right?
Yes, for a few minutes, I think.
Mr. Albert, after you learned that there were questions being raised about John's injuries and dog bites and scratches, in May of 2022, you got rid of that dog, did you not?
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently.
At some point, your family got rid of Chloe.
Chloe was rehomed in May
I mean, we can use
2023.
whatever words we want to. Rehomed, rehoused, whatever. But you got rid of her. She's no longer part of the Albert family, right?
Objection.
Allow that.
Right.
When did you get rid of her?
So Chloe was rehomed in, I believe, May
Of 2022.
of 2022.
Just months after the incident that we're discussing.
Well, after it was involved, she was involved in a dog fight with another dog out front.
Right, but that's also after the incident
Yes.
we're discussing.
Yes, May.
That's a family pet that you had for 6 years or 7 years.
Approximately 6 or 7 years. Not
Your
sure.
explanation just now for having gotten rid of that dog is because it bit another dog and ultimately sent 2 women to the hospital, correct?
I believe 2 women went to the hospital. Yes.
Ms. Albert, you don't have Chloe anymore, do you?
Nope.
In May of 2022, 4 months after Mr. O'Keefe's death, you got rid of your family dog of 6 years.
Objection.
Oh, is that true? Is that when you got rid of your dog?
I did not get rid of my dog. I rehomed my dog.
Your dog is no longer in the Canton area, correct?
No, but I know where she is. She's in Vermont. And that previous testimony, that information has all been given. So if she was ever needed for anything, we know where she is.
Was that testimony given to the defense?
Probably.
Was I present at the hearing where you testified about this?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
But you took no action to get rid of Chloe until after you knew that serious questions were being raised about John O'Keefe's.
Objection.
Correct?
Sustained.
At some point, you did realize there were questions being raised about John O'Keefe's injuries on his arm, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that. Did you realize that?
I heard some talk about it, yes.
As of January of 2022, John O'Keefe had never been in your house, had he?
John O'Keefe was never in my house before or after that date.
Certainly, John O'Keefe, you would agree with me, he would count, were he in your house, he would count as a stranger to Chloe, wouldn't he? Never met her?
Hypothetically, yes.
Or where was your bed inside that room, as relates to the windows?
I'm just trying to think of how to describe it. So the bed would be in the middle of the bedroom.
Okay, it's a bad question on my part because we haven't been there. Let's do it this way. How many feet from the windows would the closest part of your bed be to those windows?
Maybe 5 feet? 6 feet?
You indicated that Nicole came to bed about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Where was the dog?
The dog was in my room.
And she was sleeping on a mat in your room.
Yes.
And that mat is also about 6 feet from the windows.
Yes.
It's a relatively quiet street generally, Fairview.
Yes.
Not an enormous amount of through traffic.
No.
Not a busy freeway or a highway, correct?
No.
Not an especially noisy street,
The street, no.
especially at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning, right?
Right.
Where were you at 6:03 on the morning of January 29, 2022?
I was sleeping in my room.
6 feet from that window.
Yes.
Was Nicole in bed with you?
Yes.
Had you taken any medication the night before?
No.
Were you on any sedatives?
No.
Sleeping pills?
No.
Were you wearing a sleep apnea machine?
No.
Were you wearing an eye mask?
No.
Were you wearing earplugs?
No.
You shortly thereafter became aware that 6 emergency vehicles, including a fire engine, police cruisers, and unmarked police vehicles, a civilian SUV, were all parked in front of your house that morning, correct?
I'm not aware of what type of vehicles were parked there, no.
You seen photographs since this incident?
Of the vehicles out front?
Right.
No.
Are you aware that all of those vehicles had their engines running?
No.
Are you aware that all the emergency vehicles at least had their lights on, flashing lights?
No.
Were you aware that there were a number of first responders outside their vehicles traipsing around your lawn?
Was I aware?
Were you aware at the time?
No.
Were you aware that there were emergency responders, first responders, who were talking to each other over the din of the wind and the snow
What?
to communicate with each other?
No.
You're aware that there were 3 women on your lawn at one point?
Just only after the fact.
And at least one of those women was screaming to the top of her lungs at 6:03?
No.
Again, your German Shepherd was 6 feet from the window, correct?
I don't know that for sure.
That's where her mat was.
Well, that doesn't mean that's where she always is. She also sleeps in the closet area sometimes.
Oh, so now Chloe's in the closet.
I didn't say she was in the closet. I said she sleeps in the closet area sometimes.
Was she sleeping in the closet area that morning?
I don't remember.
Likelihood is she was sleeping on that mat 5 or 6 feet from that window, correct?
Objection. I don't know.
Did you hear any fire trucks that morning?
I did not.
Did you hear any ambulances?
I did not.
You didn't see the flashing lights of emergency vehicles outside your bedroom window?
I did not. My blinds were shut, my curtains were closed. I did not see anything.
And your explanation is that you and Nicole and Chloe, the German Shepherd, all slept through the entirety of that commotion on your front lawn.
Yes.
To be clear, you are a trained first responder.
Yes.
Yet during that entire event, after you were awakened, all that chaos on your front lawn, you never came out of your house to assist or investigate in any matter whatsoever, did you, Mr. Albert?
Once I was awakened?
Correct.
No.
By the way, you indicated that you were awakened in the morning by Jen McCabe about 6:30, correct?
Yes.
You testified the very first thing you remember was Jennifer McCabe waking you up in your bedroom.
Yes.
So,
What time was that?
I thought it was somewhere between 6 and 6:30.
If I told you it was around 6:45 based on video surveillance footage, would you quarrel with that?
If that's what you say.
Okay. Does that sound about right to you?
Yep. I initially from the beginning just said 6:30. I wasn't quite sure.
What is it that wakes you up on that morning?
I was awoken that morning to my sister-in-law, Jen, had burst into my room.
And do you know about what time that was?
It was early in the morning, between 6 and 6:30, I would say.
And fair to say that's not a normal occurrence?
No.
And when she burst into your room, can you describe her demeanor or sort of how she appeared when she first came in?
She was very upset, almost hysterical.
And what, if anything, did she say when she came into the room?
She said something to the effect, John is dead.
Objection.
Next question, please, sustain. Unless you lay a foundation.
Did you know who she was referring to when she initially comes into your room?
I initially did not.
And at some point during the course of that conversation, does Ms. McCabe make reference to going downstairs?
Yes.
And prior to that, not the content of the conversation, but as far as the length of the conversation, about how long was that length of the conversation that occurred in your bedroom between yourself, Ms. McCabe, and your wife?
Probably a minute.
And the demeanor that you described as far as Ms. McCabe was concerned is almost hysterical. Was that continuous throughout that initial conversation?
Yes. She was very upset.
And who, if anyone, did she indicate was downstairs, or why did you go downstairs?
She said that the police...
This I'm going to allow in with that foundation.
Go ahead.
She said that the police were downstairs.
And so you went downstairs to talk to the police?
Yes.
On the morning of January 29th, after 6 a.m., when it was still relatively dark out, you burst into the bedroom of Brian and Nicole Albert's home, correct?
Yes.
You did that specifically to wake up, according to you, Brian Albert and Nicole Albert, correct?
Yes.
Where was Cody?
I don't know.
So you'll agree that, at least from their perspective, you walked in the front door unexpectedly, correct?
Yes.
You walked upstairs unexpectedly, correct?
Yes.
Still dark outside, right?
Yes.
You walked through their door, and you said you burst into the door into a dark room where they were sleeping, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Albert said that you were somewhat hysterical. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
You were somewhat chaotic.
Yes.
And you don't remember a 70-pound German Shepherd having any reaction.
No.
Matter of fact, you don't remember the dog being there at all, correct?
Correct.
You never saw that dog, correct?
I have no memory of seeing that dog.
Okay, so as you sit here today, you cannot say that the dog was here because you don't have a memory of ever seeing it.
I
Right?
did not see it, no.
And remind me once again, when you were leaving that night, that early morning before, who was the last person to leave? Was it Caitlin?
I believe she left after us.
Then at 6:40 a.m., under the cover of darkness, you walked in the front door of the unlocked front door of Brian Albert's house, correct?
I went into my sister's house, correct.
It wasn't Brian Albert's house?
And Brian Albert, yes, I'm sorry.
You then climbed the stairs up toward the bedrooms, correct?
Yes.
You walked into the bedroom door where Brian Albert and Nicole Albert, according to you, were sleeping. Is that right?
Yes.
So you would agree that you unexpectedly, in terms of their view, unexpectedly walked into their house basically in the middle of the night, middle of the morning?
Yes.
You indicated that when you went through their bedroom door, you sort of burst through, correct?
I opened the door. I don't know if I used the word burst.
You previously indicated that when you went through the door, it was chaotic because you were so amped up from the events. Is that right?
I don't know if I used those words.
You were somewhat chaotic.
Yes.
And would you say that you were loud or quiet? You were loud, right?
I was trying to wake them up. I think as I explained earlier, I was like where everything was going on around me, and I was kind of like in just a state of shock. And I remember thinking, I don't want to startle them, but I have to wake them up, because obviously when I wake them up, they're going to be panicked and think something terrible happened.
Well, why didn't you want to startle them? Something terrible had happened.
I didn't want to give them a heart attack when I woke them up.
But you didn't walk up and just nudge them and say, hey, Nicole, you wake up. You didn't do that.
No, I was like, Brian, Nicole, wake up, wake up.
Exactly. But you weren't saying it in that voice either. You were saying, Brian, Nicole, get up.
I'm not sure if it was that loud, but I definitely was. You are definitely like trying to wake them up, yes.
What was the dog's reaction?
I don't recall seeing the dog.
The reason you don't remember the dog being there is because the dog wasn't there, was it?
I don't remember the dog.
Right. So when you walked out of the room, when you walked in the house, didn't see the dog?
No.
When you walked up the stairs, no dog?
No.
Walked down the hallway, no dog?
No.
Walked into Brian and Nicole's bedroom door, no dog?
I don't remember seeing the dog.
I realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Dog or no dog? No dog.
I don't remember seeing the dog. It doesn't mean it wasn't there or it was there. I just don't remember seeing it.
Well, no dog came up to you and barked at you, correct?
No.
You didn't see or hear a dog whining or howling, did you?
No.
You didn't hear or see a dog scratching at the door?
No.
There's no sign of a dog at all in Brian and Nicole Albert's house at 6:41 a.m. when you walked into that house, correct? Or 6:40?
I don't remember seeing the dog.
And this was a 70-pound German Shepherd, correct?
I don't know the weight of the
Have
dog.
Have you ever heard a description given about that dog by Brian Albert? Anybody else? That dog was not good with strangers. I object. Did you know, as you said, you're very, very dear friends, and obviously dear friends with Brian Albert, relations with Nicole Albert, your sister. Are you aware that that dog was not good with strangers? Object.
Do you know that?
I don't. It wasn't good with other dogs is what I knew, so I could never bring my dog over there. That's all I know about the dog.
Right. Had some aggression, correct? At least with other dogs.
Possibly.
Possibly with other dogs.
Yeah.
And when you go to bed, you don't charge your phone?
No. I had the phone in the bed with me.
Why would you have the phone in the bed?
We have 5 kids, and, if somebody was trying to call or if I needed to reach them, it's just kind of a habit I do.
So you're worried about having your kids out. They might need to get a hold of Dad, so you make sure that your phone is nice and close, but it can just run out of batteries?
Well, if it's dying, then I'll put it in the charger, but if not, I just leave it on the bed.
Well, what about that night?
That night, the phone was on the bed.
How do you know?
Well, I remember the phone being on the bed.
You have a specific recollection from 2.5 years ago about the state of the battery charge on your phone such that you know it was in your bed that night.
No, I just know as a routine, I keep my phone in the bed with me.
That's not what you just said. You just said it depends on whether or not the battery needs to be charged, it's whether or not you charge it.
My answer is that sometimes I, of course, charge my battery,
Of course you have.
but I sleep with the phone in my bed.
Every single night?
Yes, mostly every night.
I thought you just said 4 questions ago, it depends on whether or not the phone needs to be charged. Sometimes you keep it in the bed, sometimes you put it on the charger.
If the phone needs to be charged, I charge it, but I sleep in bed with my phone.
Mr. Albert, did your phone need to be charged that night?
I don't remember if it did, but I slept in bed with the phone.
You've been on a road trip most of the day, correct?
Yes.
You've been out at bars that night, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
You weren't charging your phone. We just saw the video. You weren't charging your phone at the bar.
Right.
So when you got home, clearly put your phone on a charger, didn't you?
But I did not.
So if your kids needed to get a hold of you, why would the phone being in your bed be any assistance to you instead of just on the charger at the nightstand?
That's just what I've always done. I just keep it in my bed. My wife does the same thing.
Okay. So now you've got 2 phones in the bed.
Yes.
Okay. And your glasses.
Yes.
Right between the 2 of you.
Yes.
Got it. Does your phone have a ringer on it?
It does.
Ever thought about maybe turning the ringer on just in case the kids need to get a hold of you?
Sometimes it's on vibrate. Sometimes it's on ring. It depends.
Yeah. Depends on you. You just put it on ringer. Wouldn't that make more sense to go to bed, put it on ringer?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
All I can answer is that I sleep with my phone in my bed. That's just what I do.
And you know what I'm about to ask you, which is why you're saying you sleep with the phone in the bed, correct?
All right, so that's sustained, that's stricken. Come on, Mr. Jackson, you know.
All right.
Yes.
You put them both on your bedside table because that's what you do every night. Is that right?
Most often, yes.
You were clear when you went to sleep in your prior testimony that you put both your work and your personal phone. You had 2 at the time, correct?
Yes.
A personal and a work cell phone, right?
Yes.
You put them both on your bedside table because that's what you do every night. Is that right?
Most often, yes.
As a matter of fact, you were asked whether or not you have a charging station, and you said, yeah, it's right on my bedside.
I don't know that I don't have a charging station.
Right, you said no, bedside. In other words, you keep your phone by your bedside, on your bedside table.
Usually.
What else is in the bed with you? Your keys, your wallet, any other pocket items?
No.
Just the phone and your glasses.
Yes.
And Nicole's phone.
Yes.
Right between the 2 of you.
Usually, yes.
What about that night?
Yes.
Sir, did you make any phone calls after you went to bed between the hours of 1:45 a.m. and 6:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Who did you call?
I inadvertently called Brian Higgins.
What time?
I don't recall the exact time. After 2.
2:22 and 35 seconds. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Did you speak to Brian Higgins at any point between 1:45 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. that night?
No.
You say you inadvertently called him at 2:22 in the morning.
Yes.
How did you inadvertently call him?
Well, I don't know because it was inadvertent.
So I have to explain that then.
Well, it's kind of like a butt dial.
Kind of like a butt dial. All right. How long have you used an iPhone?
A long time.
As a matter of fact, you've been asked this question before, haven't you?
Yes.
Hence my question. You knew what I was going to ask you.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll withdraw it. You indicated previously at a different hearing in June of 2023 that you were, quote, hanging out with your wife, and you must have butt dialed Mr. Higgins, correct?
Yes.
At 2:22 and 35 seconds on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
You were asked how that could have happened, much like I just asked how that could have happened, right?
Yes.
And in that hearing, you said, quote, I'm not totally sure. Similar to what you just said here.
Yes.
And here you added that it could have been a butt dial.
Yes.
You were then called back to that same hearing, but at a different date. an ongoing hearing, right?
Yes.
That was in July of 2023, correct?
Yes.
You then changed your testimony and said, and I don't mean to be indelicate, but your testimony was then that you were in an intimate situation, I'll put it that way, with Nicole at the time. And that's how you butt dialed Brian Higgins, correct?
I don't believe I said that's how I butt dialed Brian Higgins.
That's the time.
I think I said there was a time frame that was close.
Okay.
So I didn't say that, no.
All right. What you said was you were in an intimate situation with Nicole at the time that the butt dial occurred, correct?
I'm not sure if you have something you can read me or show me.
All right, so you testified that the first call you received after returning home on the 29th was a call from Chief Berkowitz just before 7 a.m., which woke you up. Is that right?
It was around 6:30-ish, I think.
Okay. Your testimony previously was at some point before 7 a.m., that call was the one that woke you up.
Yes.
And it turns out, Mr. Higgins, that was a lie, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't a lie.
When you were asked that question at a previous hearing, you didn't know that the person questioning you had your phone records, did you?
I assume they did.
And you were thereafter confronted with those phone records, correct?
I was asked about them, yes.
And those phone records established that you and Brian Albert actually exchanged not one, but two phone calls at 2:22 a.m. that morning, at a time when you claimed you were in bed asleep, correct?
I have no recollection of any phone calls.
According to you, it was a butt dial that went to his phone that somehow lasted 1 second.
Right.
Okay. Then there's a second call. If you look at the second line down, there's a second call at 2:22 and 52 seconds, 17 seconds later, correct?
Yes.
That call is actually from Brian Higgins to you, isn't it?
Yes.
And that call doesn't last 1 second. That call lasts 22 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, you know how long 22 seconds is.
What's that?
You know how long 22 seconds lasts.
Yes.
At 2:22 and 35 seconds, you received a call from Brian Albert, duration of 1 second, correct?
Yes.
In other words, Brian Albert called you at 2:22 and 35 seconds, but it looks like you missed the call, correct?
I see the 1 second call, yes.
There's a second call just below that. On the same date at 2:22 and 52 seconds from you to Brian Albert. Do you see that one?
Yes.
So 17 seconds after you missed a call, according to these records, from Brian Albert, you called him back, and there was a call lasting 22 seconds. Is that right?
That's what the records say.
May I approach?
Yes.
So the fact is, you were speaking to Brian Albert in the middle of the night, approximately 3 hours before Mr. O'Keefe's body was found in his yard, correct?
No, that's not correct.
And that was 5 minutes before 2:27 a.m. when there was a Google search for how long to die in the cold, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
And then, of course, you lied about that under oath in that prior proceeding by saying, I don't remember this phone call.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you, in fact, tell the truth at the prior proceeding when you said, I don't remember that phone call?
I always tell the truth.
Did you lie under oath, sir?
No, I did not.
Would you tell us if you did?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You acknowledge that there's a 22-second phone call in your phone records, correct?
That's what's reflected by the record.
And 22 seconds is quite an amount of time. Would you agree?
It's 22 seconds.
As a matter of fact, it's about this long, with the court's permission.
The court does not give permission. That's argument, Mr. Jackson.
If we were to count off 22 seconds, that's an uncomfortably long time, is it not?
No,
It's long enough to have a conversation, isn't it?
I didn't have a conversation.
Is 22 seconds long enough to have a conversation?
No.
A human being can't have a conversation in 22 seconds?
Sure they could. I don't think it's anything of substance.
Okay, so that's my question. Is it 22 seconds long enough to have a conversation?
I don't agree with it, no.
So according to your phone records, you placed a call to him, and then 17 seconds later, he returned a call to you that lasted 22 seconds.
I wasn't aware of that call.
If a call went to voicemail on your phone, you would get that voicemail, correct? You'd get notice of it.
If I checked my voicemails and there was a voicemail, I would get it, yes.
That's my question. Did you get a voicemail from Brian Higgins?
No.
Which means he didn't leave a voicemail,
Right.
which would suggest that you answered the call, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Let's talk for a second about this butt dial. You went to bed and you closed and your phone was you closed and locked your phone, correct?
Yes.
The phone automatically locks. You have to use the 4-digit passcode to unlock it, correct?
Well, no, I also have face recognition too, so it can open that way without any passcode.
We'll get to that in a second. The phone locks when it's not in use, correct?
Yes.
And then to make a call, once you open the phone, either through facial recognition or through the passcode, then you have to tap on the phone app in order to open up the phone app, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Once you open up that phone app, there are only 3 ways that you can initiate a phone call. Favorites, recents, and contacts, correct?
I don't know that.
If you tap on a contact, that opens up the contact page or the contact app, right? You know that.
Yes.
It's where all your contacts are.
Yes.
They're alphabetized.
Yes.
You have to either scroll through or do a search and type in the name of the person you're looking for.
Right.
You didn't do that, did you?
No.
If you tap favorites, if you have favorites listed, there's a list of favorites. You have to scroll through and tap the one that you want to call, correct?
I think so, yes. I'm not totally aware of that, but
And if you tap on recents, those are the recent calls that you've had, you've either received or made. And of course, you have to tap on the contact in the recents list that you want to call, right?
yes.
And then, of course, you would have to tap again to end whatever call you initiated, right?
Yes.
I mean, you don't just say goodbye. You got to say goodbye and hang up. You got to tap it to hang it up.
Right.
So would you agree, from a closed and locked phone, there is no physical mechanism by which a person can hit one button and make a phone call?
Objection.
Sustained. No, it's different.
Are you saying that from your closed and locked phone, you inadvertently tapped your phone one time and that initiated a butt dial to Brian Higgins?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Tell me what you're saying. How
I
did you butt dial Brian Higgins?
I don't know.
2:22 in the morning.
I don't know that the phone was locked. I could have been looking through my phone. I butt dial people often and make inadvertent calls. I could have hit a last call from him by accident, thus calling his phone.
So you were actually awake and on your phone at the time.
I was awake and I could have been looking at my phone.
So, Mr. Albert, how'd you miss the call 17 seconds later?
Well, my wife was in the room with me and we were hanging out and I never got the second call from him. So I'm not sure what time he called. I'm not sure what I was doing at that second, but I don't know.
But it didn't go to voicemail.
Well, I didn't get a voicemail from him, no.
So it didn't go to voicemail.
Well, I don't know that don't know that it didn't go to voicemail. I just know that I didn't receive a voicemail from him.
So if you, okay.
I mean, we're all guessing here, but I mean, he could have called voicemail.
We're not all guessing.
Well,
here.
you are, because you don't know if he left a voicemail or didn't, or at least got voicemail and then hung up the phone.
I think one of us is trying to guess.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. You know what, I want to see counsel's sideline for just a second.
When you were asked about this and you were shown these records, that prior hearing, you had an explanation for what that 22-second call may have been and what the prior call may have been, correct?
Yes.
What was your explanation?
Well, I used a phrase that people commonly used as a butt dial.
So you think it's possible that you may have butt dialed Brian Albert for a 22-second call that you're not aware of?
I think it's possible that he could have been inadvertently called back, but I have no recollection of that, nor did I have any conversation with anybody.
But you admitted that you lived alone, correct, Mr. Higgins?
That's correct.
You have an iPhone at the time.
Yes.
You already indicated under oath that you don't sleep with your iPhone. You keep it on your bedside table. Is that right?
Most often, yes.
There's nobody else in your room. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you had your ringer on because you were awakened the next morning by a call from Chief Berkowitz, right?
Yes, the ringer was on.
When somebody calls you and you miss the call, there's a notification that shows up on that iPhone. Isn't that right?
I don't know how mine's set up at the time. I don't know.
If you open up your phone app and you go to recents, it shows all the missed calls, correct?
I think you can get to them, yes.
And you know that the iPhone does not automatically call people back. That is not a thing, right? You miss a call from someone, it's not just going to automatically re-ring them.
Yes, I think we both know that, yes.
So to call somebody back, you have to go on your iPhone, open it up from a locked position, navigate to a phone application, then navigate to a contact, and then make a call, correct?
Objection.
Sustained. You can break it down.
You have to manipulate the phone on the screen with your finger in order to make a call, correct?
You would have to hit at least one button, I guess.
At least one, right?
Yes.
So that's 3 or 4 interactions with the phone that have to be physically undertaken to just make one call, right?
But I didn't make any calls.
So how'd you butt dial?
I didn't make any calls. I have no recollection of any calls, nor did I speak with anybody.
After you were shown these phone records at that prior hearing, in that hearing at least, you finally admitted that you did in fact call Brian Albert back, but this time you claimed the two of you just sort of sat in silence. Isn't that right?
Objection.
So I'm going to sustain it in that form. You can ask it appropriately, Mr. Jackson.
Did you ever previously testify that you did in fact make the call, but you did not have a conversation during the course of the call?
What I think I testified was something must have happened, but I didn't have any phone call.
Do you remember being asked, quote, did you call him back, end quote, and you answered, yes. And then there was a question.
There was a series of questions there. That's only a fragment of what I said.
I'm not done yet, Mr. Higgins. Can you answer my question?
Yes.
To the question, did you call him back? Your answer was yes, correct?
I think it was kind of I must have.
Then you were asked, well, the answer was yes, and then there was a colloquy back and forth where you spoke over each other's words, right?
It was dialogue back and forth about this whole thing, yes.
What's the question? Please read it for me.
Did you call him back?
What's the answer?
Yes.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
You then said a little bit further in that same conversation, I did not have a conversation, correct?
I did not have a conversation with anybody.
And the question following that was, you just listened to the phone, what someone was telling you? Answer, it's possible that the phone picked up on the other end and nobody said anything, and then I terminated the call, end quote. That's what you said at the other hearing under oath, correct? Yes or no?
Can I see it?
And your answer was, it's possible that the phone picked up on the other end and nobody said anything, and then I terminated the call. That's the only thing.
Meaning it's possible it could have happened.
It's possible it could have happened that you had a 22-second call with Brian Albert, correct?
I did not have a 22-second call with Brian Albert. There was no conversation.
Are you now saying that your phone was open and unlocked at 2:22 a.m.?
I'm saying it could have been.
Are you saying that it was?
I don't know.
Mr. Albert, you were the only person that was there with your phone. Was the phone unlocked, and did you make a call?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
Sure, I don't know.
And 17 seconds later, again, presuming you're the only person there with the phone, did you answer that call?
I did not.
You would agree that in order to answer a call, you can't just look at your phone to answer it. It has to be swiped physically, correct?
I think you can hit, I think it comes up green or red for the phone call, whether it's locked or not, and you can hit green.
Right, but you have to hit a button.
Yes.
Did you hit a button to answer a call from Brian Higgins?
I don't.
I don't mean to talk over you. Please let me finish my question. Did you hit a button to answer a phone call from Brian Higgins at 2:22 and 52 seconds in the morning?
Not that I know of.
You do know that that phone will not answer on its own, correct?
Yes.
And simply touching your butt will not answer that phone. It has to be swiped.
No, I don't think it has to be swiped.
You would agree that a 22-second call from Brian Higgins had to have been answered by you. Isn't that right?
Objection.
Do you agree with that?
No,
Did Nicole, who else was in the room?
just myself and my wife.
And Chloe.
Yes. But Chloe's not a human, so it was myself and my wife.
By process of elimination, Nicole didn't answer that call, did she?
No,
Chloe, the non-human, didn't answer that call, did she?
no.
So who had to have answered the call, sir?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
I don't remember answering that call. Could have hit the phone by accident, causing it to answer.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on from this, Mr. Jackson.
Your Honor, if I could have one or two more questions.
One more question.
Now your testimony is you could have answered the call, correct?
No, my testimony is that I don't know. You're asking me how it could have answered, and I'm trying to answer your question.
At a prior hearing in June of 2022, you were asked this exact question, and you answered, quote, yeah, it's only possible that it's me, end quote, correct?
I don't recall answering that way, but I'm not sure.
Sir, you had an iPhone with a number ending in 0888 back in January of 2022, did you not?
Yes.
And Mr. Albert, you were notified by the Commonwealth that on September 23rd, 2022, in the fall of 2022, a judge specifically ordered that you were to preserve that phone.
Objection, Your Honor.
Data, correct?
I'll see counsel at sidebar.
Did you receive a notice on Commonwealth letterhead indicating that you were not to destroy or in any way manipulate any data on your cell phone? Destroy the phone itself or to manipulate or destroy any data on that cell phone?
I do not remember getting that letter, no.
I'm going to read this for the record, Your Honor, if I may, with the court's permission.
Yes.
Did you receive a letter that said, in essence, not even in essence, it should be quoted as the following, quote, you, Mr. Albert, are hereby notified that the defense in the case of Commonwealth versus Kieran Reed, Norfolk Superior Court, criminal case number 22-117, has filed a motion pursuant to Mass R. Crim P. 17 for the production of any cell phones that you used between January 28, 2022 and February 28, 2022, and or any data associated with those cell phones, period. The hearing on Ms. Reed's motion will be held on October 3, 2022 at 2 p.m. in courtroom 1 of the Norfolk Superior Court. You may be heard on the motion at that time. You are hereby placed on notice that these cell phones are the subject of pending litigation and you must not alter, delete, destroy, or in any way manipulate any of these electronic data associated with the cell phones at issue. Period, end quote. Did you receive a notice from the Commonwealth with that language?
I don't remember receiving that document, no.
Were you told in any other capacity that you were not to get rid of or delete your cell phone? In other words, preserve your phone.
Subsequent to me upgrading my phone, I spoke with the DA's office. So after that, they told me via a phone call that that was the case.
So your testimony is you never received the notice that I just read, but you did talk to the DA and he told you to preserve, you were on notice that you were to preserve your phone.
After.
I know you want to say that, Mr. Albert. My question is, did you have the conversation with Mr. Lowry?
Yes.
Okay. When was that conversation, sir?
So I don't have the exact date of the conversation. I'm not sure.
Who did you talk to on the phone exactly? Was it Mr. Lowry alone or was it a conference call?
It was a conference call.
Who else was on that conference call?
I believe Steve Nelson and other witnesses in the case were on the conference call.
Can you name those witnesses for us, please?
I believe it was Brian Higgins. I believe Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe, and maybe somebody else, but I can't recall.
Who initiated that conference call?
I believe it was somebody in the DA's office, so either Mr. Lally or Steve Nelson, somebody like that.
Did everybody just call into a central number, a conference line?
Yes.
And what exactly did Mr. Lally say to you during the course of that conversation about preserving your phone?
During the conversation, Mr. Lally said that that the defense had filed a motion to ask for the phones to be preserved.
And anything else?
That's what I remember him saying.
Did you volunteer that, oh my goodness, I just upgraded my phone last week conveniently. I don't have that phone anymore.
No,
You didn't say that to Mr. Lally?
no,
You just took the information that he gave you and hung up the phone and went about your business.
yes,
Without notifying him that the very phone that he had just ordered you to preserve had just been destroyed days earlier.
no, the phone wasn't destroyed. I upgraded the phone.
The data was destroyed, sir. Correct?
I did not destroy any data on any phone.
Mr. Albert,
I upgraded my phone.
when you upgrade a phone, you know that the phone is set back to factory reset before your new phone is handed to you, correct? Happens every time.
I don't know that.
So if you have personal texts with your doctor, personal communications with Mr. Henning, your lawyer, you're just going to hand that to a pimply-faced kid at Best Buy and say, here's my phone? You know that data is destroyed when you upgrade your phone, right?
I think some things are come over across contacts, things like that, so I don't know that for sure.
You can back up your data, sir, but the phone data is destroyed for all purposes. It's factory reset, correct?
I don't know that.
How long have you had a phone? That's an iPhone.
Years.
How many times have you upgraded your iPhone?
Multiple times.
Every single time you upgrade it, you know that the phone prior, the data's destroyed on it, correct?
Usually my contacts come over and my photos come over. So
That's a backup.
no, I don't think I have that on backup, but okay.
Irrespective, you didn't tell Mr. Lally that you had gotten rid of that phone.
I was not asked that and I didn't tell him that.
I see. You felt like if you weren't asked that, you didn't need to volunteer it, even though the conference call was specifically about preserving your phone pursuant to a judge's order. Correct?
What was the question?
You didn't offer to Mr. Lally that you had gotten rid of the very phone that he was telling you had to be preserved due to a judge's order.
I did not.
And you didn't seek any advice from, I'm not asking you for the communications, you did not seek any advice from counsel at that time for those purposes.
I don't believe I did, no.
All right, let's just get to the brass tacks. Where's your phone?
My phone was upgraded and traded in for a new phone.
Your phone was upgraded and traded in for a new phone.
Yes.
Okay. Another way to say that is you traded your phone in and got rid of it, correct?
I traded my phone and upgraded it. Yes.
When did you get rid of your phone ending in 0888?
I upgraded my phone in September, third week of September, maybe around 22nd.
The 22nd of September.
I believe so. I can't be sure the exact date.
So according to you, you got rid of the phone that was the subject of a court order preservation the day before it was ordered preserved, right?
Rephrase the question, please?
This order was just stipulated, this order is dated September 23rd, 2022. It was just stipulated that on the 23rd or 24th, you were then sent a notice to preserve the phone. And your testimony is on the 22nd, the day before this all happened, you upgraded your phone and got rid of it in total, correct?
I upgraded my phone on and around the 22nd, yes.
Are you claiming that you got rid of your phone on the 22nd?
I upgraded my phone around that. I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but yes.
So it could have been after the 22nd.
I don't think it was after the 22nd.
Could have been the 24th?
No.
Could have been the 25th?
No.
So you're absolutely sure that you could not have upgraded your phone and gotten rid of it anytime after the 23rd when this judge ordered that it be preserved?
No.
Because you know that if you got rid of that phone after you had been notified that you were ordered by a court to preserve it, you'd be committing a felony.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Is that just a coincidence?
September 4th was my birthday. The phone was broken and failing. I had planned on getting a new phone, and that just happened to be the day that I got it.
Happy birthday. Was that a coincidence?
Objection.
Sustained.
You testified at the other hearing in June of 2022, quote, I don't recall saying that I was going to get rid of my personal phone to Brian Higgins. I may have said that. You know, there's personal stuff on my personal phone, but I don't recall saying that to him, but I don't know. We had multiple conversations about things, end quote. You remember testifying to that?
Yes.
So you're not ruling out the fact that you may have told Brian Higgins that you intended to get rid of your phone, correct?
No.
You're not ruling out the fact that Brian Higgins may have told you that he intended to get rid of his phone.
No, I don't remember him saying that to me.
Your testimony was, quote, I know there were conversations about the phones. I just can't say if he was going to get rid of his phone or not, end quote. You testified to that, didn't you?
Yeah, I have no idea what he was going to do.
I'm asking, are those your words? Did you testify to that under oath?
Yes, although I don't know the context of the time that they were asking that question.
June of 2020.
No, not the date of the hearing, but when they were asking if and when that conversation took place.
Does it really matter? When it took place?
I think so, yes.
Well, you talked to Brian Higgins about getting rid of your phones. When do you think you had that conversation?
I don't think I talked to Brian Higgins about getting rid of my phones.
Well, you just said you can't rule out the fact that you had conversations with Brian Higgins about your phones and possibly getting rid of your phones. Right?
No, I don't think that's what I said.
You two discussed the fact that you both wanted to get rid of your phones.
I don't remember having that conversation with Brian Higgins at all.
Your testimony was, quote, I know there were conversations about the phones, sir. Correct?
Correct that that's what you're
So if you're having conversations with Brian Higgins about the phones, what the heck were you talking about?
I don't know the timing of when they asked when those conversations were.
Mr. Albert,
So
I'm leaving it open to you. I don't care when it was. I'm asking you, have you ever had a conversation with Brian Higgins about your phones, respectively?
we may have, I can't remember that conversation specifically.
Then why, in June of 2023, did you testify, I know there were conversations about the phones with Brian Higgins, end quote?
I'm not sure of the context of that.
So now you just can't remember.
No, I don't think I could remember during that testimony either. I think if you read the whole thing, I think I said I'm not sure, I don't remember.
Your quote was, I know there were conversations about the phones. I just can't say if he said he was going to get rid of his phone or not, end quote.
Right.
Does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
So now as you sit here and you answer my question, did you and Brian Higgins have a conversation about your phones?
I don't remember having that conversation with Brian Higgins.
All right, let's just stop the nonsense right there. Brian Albert is the personification of a guilty conscience. What other examples of a guilty conscience do you really need? I mean, he is running the gauntlet of guilty consciousness. I just hope in the civil trial we get to hear from 3 of the participants that weren't involved in either trial or weren't called to testify in either trial, and that is the asses of Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and Jennifer McCabe, because, I don't know, guys, something's going on there. Something's going on there, and we need to get to the bottom, pun intended, of that. Other housekeeping notes, we will go over the poll results for the official fan name of the Fervent community on Saturday, but please don't let me interrupt the shank of your evening. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll be dropping a video tomorrow, and our next premiere will be Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm talking to you, Kirks. Peace out, guys.
I put you on a pretty list. I'm gonna make you pay for this. Yeah, your AJ's dangerous. Ooh, oh baby, I was born for this.
Yeah, I brought the West Coast to Dedham. Nobody is safe from my verbal venom. Put a witness on the stand and watch me shred 'em. Have 'em praying for peace, like the name John Lennon. A lawyer to match me? Well, I ain't met 'em. Don't believe me? Just ask Hank Brennan. Free can't read, and that was just the beginning. I'm never tired of winning. Got these middle-aged women waiting up to go swimming. Let's swim. I don't get nervous. I make people nervous. I don't get nervous. I make people nervous. I put you on a Brady list. I'm gonna make you pay for this. Oh, and AJ's dangerous. I put you on a Brady list. Oh, sorry, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and KG, the real big threes. You Nettie, Bob, and me. Gonna come with the seat. Don't try me. You should know by now I always come with receipts. I'm out here penning letters like my name better roll. You got problems, Cox, and I think they're federal. Attorney Corey Hopkins, sure let him know. This ain't an episode, this a whole damn show. I don't get nervous. I make people nervous. I don't get nervous. I make people nervous. Ajax out here eliminating all you greasy motherfuckers. Ha ha ha. I'll put you on the Brady list. I'm gonna make you pay for this. Oh, yeah, AJ's dangerous. Ooh, I'll put you on the Brady list. Oh.
Wanna sue me for a wrongful death? Well, be prepared to be put into debt. I have a feeling that you might regret when you walk away with zero bread. People don't hate you, they just pray that you don't take the word of Jen McKay. But it might be better off this way, 'cause I'll shine a light on all of this decay. Thought you were suing me. Well, guess what? I'm suing you. You have a couple lawyers, that's cute. I have a baker's dozen. Think your theory makes sense, it doesn't. Don't believe me, just ask the public. This kind of conduct needs repercussions. I often wonder how many more excuses can you come up with that John had no bruises. Wonder what the Alberts think of this lawsuit. They're probably mad that they're gonna lose more loot. Thought you were suing me. Well, guess what? I'm suing you. And you, that's right, I'm suing you. And you, that's right, I'm suing you. That's right, I'm suing you.
The Fervent investigative team is on a mission to answer one question. Why are there so many butt dials in Canton, Massachusetts?
I've been studying the human anatomy for 55 years, and I've never seen anything like this. The way the posteriors in this town are able to communicate with each other is, quite frankly, disturbing.
Yeah. I've been studying statistics for 65 years, and I've never seen an anomaly like this. It keeps me up at night.
I've combed through centuries of historical communication records. I've never seen evidence of humans or any other species communicating with their anuses.
Hello? I'm gonna find you, and this will be the last butt dial you make. You understand me?
We just don't like seeing you like this. This butt dial thing has changed you.
How are they doing it, Michael?
I saw a tutorial on YouTube. Here. Sorry.
Phone goes right in the back pocket. Yours too.
Got it.
Okay, so this is the Canton technique. You want to do a quick squat, just like that.
All right. Oh, it's ringing! That's incredible!
Told ya.